Fun Corner. I'm Tina, and today I'm making yeast resin cinnamon rolls. Alrighty, this is a kind of a quick version. You can actually do this and just do the one rise, but I'm going to let it do two today. I'm going to start by taking, and this is out of the Farm Journal's bread cookbook. I love Farm Journal cookbooks. These and the Southern, well, what's now Southern Living heritage cookbooks are my favorite vintage cookbooks. This particular one belonged to my mother-in-law, so Pat, this one was Thelma's, and it's got some of her recipes in there. Be sure that Preston gets this one. But I've also got some of my grandmother's that were also Farm Journal cookbooks. They're just wonderful. They're matter of fact, and they're always reliable. So I'm going to make this calls for 2½ cups of milk, which I'm going to melt. I'm going to warm and melt the butter in it together. Alright, there we go. And 1½ sticks of butter, which is 3/4 of a cup. You can eat, oh shit. Nothing like making a mess there, is there? Okay. 1 stick is ½ a cup of butter. Alrighty, there we go. Now then, I'm going to get this warming. Really slowly, because I don't want it to get hot or boil the butter. Don't want that to happen. Alright, now then. We've got, I've been making some other kinds of bread this morning, so I'm alright, now, we use 8 to 9 cups of flour. I'm going to start with 2½ cups of the flour and then just keep adding to it as I need to. 1, 2, there we go, and ½ Now then, I'm going to add, for 8 to 9 cups, this is, I don't have wheat flour, bread flour, but I have unbleached regular flour. And I'm going to add wheat gluten to it to turn it into bread flour. About a tablespoon per cup of flour. 2, I could actually do this as a, in fact I think I will. Quarter cup is 4 tablespoons. There we go. It's easier to pour out of into a cup there. There we go. 1/4 cup and 2 tablespoons. So that's 4. That's 6. Do 1 more. There we go. All right. Okay, so about 7 tablespoons for this particular recipe. What I'm making here is a sweet dough that you can then transform into other things. You can use it to make raisin bread. I'm going to use it to make cinnamon rolls. You can use it to make those sweet tea rings or brioche things. So there's a lot of things you can do with it. Okay, 1½ teaspoons of salt. 3/4 cup of sugar. And 1/4. That's 3/4. Okie dokie. Now then. Alright, now let's get our butter melted here. As soon as my butter's warm, I'll be right back. Alrighty, now then, we're gonna yeast. You want 3 packages or package is about a tablespoon. A little bit more, about a tablespoon and a teaspoon, so I'm going to use 4 tablespoons for this. Now then, alright, now then I'm going to mix my butter and milk, warmed milk in here. You can do this at the mixer. I'm going to move to the mixer in a minute, but not yet. It's heated up to about 110, 120 degrees. This is the temperature. Remember, I've only got 2½ cups of flour in here right now, so it's a real liquidy. All right, now I'm going to move it over to the mixer and get going over there. All right, now then I'm going to stir this. Haven't added any more flour to it yet. I'm going to stir it for 2 minutes until it's well stirred. And then I'll turn this back. Alrighty, now I'm going to add 2 eggs. I always crack my eggs into a bowl before putting them into stuff. That way you don't get shells in your bowl of food. Or if you have if you're using homegrown eggs or yard eggs, that way you don't ruin everything in case you accidentally get a little bit of an old egg in there. Alright, now then I'm going to start this again, and I'm going to add 2 more cups of flour. Stop it while I pour this flour in so I don't splash it everywhere. And let's add another ½ cup of flour, and that way we'll have our first 5 cups of flour in there, and everything else will just be for getting our dough right. I'm such a messy baker, a messy cook. I'm always splattering stuff everywhere. Fortunately, flour's easy to clean up. There we go. It's still really watery. Let's see, show you here. Let me see if I can show you real quick. Can you see how loose that is? Okay, so we're going to add some more flour. Let's do another batch of flour here. A cup at a time. I'm going to need 2 or 3 more cups, but I'm going to do it a cup at a time. Just makes it easier to get it all incorporated well. I came across this dough when I was when we had our little farmers market, and that I used to go to and used to sell at. and I wanted to make some yeast breads, but I didn't have time to let them rise 2 or 3 risings and spend half the day fiddling with them. So I needed something that was fast. And so I came across this one, and there's 3 different versions of this same recipe, and one of which only uses 1 rise, but it's basically the same kind of a recipe. And so I found that it works very well for cinnamon rolls to just have 1 rise. I let the rolls rise after I make them together instead of having the dough rise separately, and it works out great. Our market isn't there anymore. It closed down a couple of years ago, so I have these recipes and I don't do anything with it. Okay, there we go. Oh, it's getting nice and, yeah, okay, let's put another cup of flour in there. And the dough's looking beautiful. It's getting lots of nice texture or stretchiness to it. Okay, that might be all I'm going to need. Let's just see here. Okay, let me start throwing it all out here. Let me get this stirred in a little bit. Yes, we have a guard that goes on here that keeps it from throwing it out, and I would use that when I was making a lot of bread, but I didn't bother to pull it out today. Forgot about needing it. It's been a long time since I made these, but my dad came and plowed my garden for me earlier this week, and so I wanted to do something nice for him for doing that for me. It was very sweet of him. He doesn't have a whole lot of time because he still works full time and raises cattle, so he has all his own work to do, and so it was very nice of him to come spend the time and do that for me. My brother came, and our hot water heater a couple of weeks ago sprung a leak, and my brother came and installed another one for us. I went with him over to Home Depot, and I got the new hot water heater and all the equipment and stuff, but bless his heart, he took the old one out and he installed that new one, and it was very kind of him. We're very, very blessed with our family members. They just we're not one of those families that's together every weekend, but we're always there when something's needed, and so you just can't beat that. And so I just really appreciate my family. Anyway, so I wanted to make Daddy some cinnamon rolls as a kind of a thank you. My stepmother loves to bake and bakes really well, but she's also working, and as a result, I don't know if she has time to bake that much anymore. So this is something I could do. I've had several recipes I've been wanting to try and would have done before Christmas, but I just didn't get around to it, and then so now that it's not December, now that Paul really shouldn't be eating that much of it, if any, I kind of have to have a reason to make some of these things. So I'm going to kind of find some reasons to do a little more baking. All right, I'm going to add a little bit more. It's still looking kind of sticky. A little bit too sticky to turn out. Although I could beat it on the counter and put the rest in there. Maybe that's what I'll do. So let me shut this for a minute. Alrighty, now then, let's see how we're doing here. This is very soft, but I don't mind it being soft. I just want to be able to handle it. Something a little bit heavier duty than that. Look, there we go. I bought these at Home Depot. They're for texturizing drywall mud, but they work great for scraping bowls and things as a baker. So I don't use it for both. This one only gets used in the kitchen. But it's a little sturdier. It's stiff, whereas these are real flexible, you know, and so it works better to get things out of the bowl sometimes. There we go. There we go. Now get the rest of that's stuck on the inside there. I hate to waste anything on the inside of a bowl, you know. I was always I guess we learned that because we got to lick the bowls when we were kids, and so it taught us that there's always another use for those little remnants on the beaters and in the bowls. I don't do that anymore, but and of course now they tell us that our eggs that we shouldn't do that, but anyway, it's yeah. See, this is nice and soft, but a little bit of flour on it keeps it from sticking. And what we're going to do is, there we go. Yep. You can do this also as a cool rise where you refrigerate it for 24 hours, so you could do it 2 days in a row if you wanted to. But I like doing it all the same day if I can. Okay, now then, I want to get some more butter melting because I want to be able to brush this with butter. Let me go get my rolling pin. I'll be right back. Okay. Now then, might need more flour, so let's put some more flour out here. Put some all over the rolling pin. Put some out. Headed here, sitting here waiting. There we go. Get all this stuff out of the way. By the way, you never wash your rolling pin. You wipe it off with a clean towel when you're done. You don't going to get it wet because it's not good for the wood. It'll make it start to splinter, and you don't want it to do that. Rolling out here. Kind of has to stick a little dab to the board to be able to roll out properly. There we go. You can use a glass if you don't have a rolling pin. You can use a glass or a rigid cup. A Turvis tumbler. You can use a Turvis tumbler. You see it rolls just fine. So if you don't bake a lot, or if you're young and you don't have those things yet, you can make do. There's lots of different things that you can use to make do with. See, that Turvis tumbler works really good actually. So all right, there we go. Let's see here now. I want to roll it out pretty thin because I'm going to roll it all back up once I put my sugar and my cinnamon inside of it. The width of it, it's going to roll up this way. So the width of it is how many layers it's going to have. The length of it is, I'll cut it into individual cinnamon rolls once it's rolled up. But I'm going to roll it up length, horizontal. How is it that, Paul? Rolling up not lengthwise but sidewise. So the long edge is what I'm rolling up. It's not horizontal rolling, is it? That vertical? That's not vertical either.
Side to side is horizontal.
Okay, and it's not that.
Vertical's up.
Okay. Okay, so anyway, you can see what I can do. I'll remember the best word for that motion as soon as I stop this. So, you know how that goes. Get my butter here. I love these silicone brushes. I used to use, we used to use a cheap old paintbrush, but gosh, it was hard to get them clean, and they didn't last that long before they got kind of gummy with your oil, and you couldn't really use them anymore. Had to throw them out and get a new one. But the silicone washes up real clean. It's always fresh and clean every time you want to start with it. And you don't have to cover every minuscule inch. This is not a paint job. We're just trying to spread out some oil and add some extra oil because that makes the rolls richer. And so just want to kind of have, there we go. I melted a half a stick of butter, which is a 1/4 cup. And I'm not using it all, but you might. It just depends on how you roll yours out. Now then, let me bring my my pan over here. And what I'm going to do is put the rest of that butter into my pan and use that to grease my pan with. There we go. The sides of it too, because I don't want them to stick on the sides. There we go. If you're trying to cut your fats, which you shouldn't be, I guess you could use parchment on this part. Okay, there we go. Now then, where'd I put my sugar? What did I do with the sugar? Did I put it up? I did. I put it back in the cabinet. Okay. All right. Now then, I'm just going to sprinkle. The sugar on here. You can use anywhere from okay, let's start with half a cup so that we can measure it properly for you. Depends on your taste. Also, if you want to add raisins in here, simmer them in a little dab of water first to kind of plump them up, and then just sprinkle them over the top of it. Paul likes raisins in his. I don't like raisins in mine. I don't dislike raisins. I just don't think that. I think of them as raisin buns if they got raisins in them. Okay, that was half a cup of sugar. I think that's probably plenty. The cinnamon is real sweet. And then we're going to ice them too. And it's a sweet dough. Now I like lots of cinnamon, so I'm going to be very generous with my cinnamon. And I'm sorry, but I haven't measured it ever, so I can't tell you how much. Probably at least 1/3 cup of cinnamon. And there again, that just depends on your taste, what you like. I like a lot. Okay, there we go. As you can tell, I like a lot. Huh?
You don't have enough sense to put raisins in there, though.
Oh. Poor Paul.
Can't make you change.
Okay, now I'm rolling. I'm filming here still, bud. No, but I made you Japanese milk bread this morning before I made these.
I haven't tasted it
I know. I hope it turns out as good as it did the first time I made it. It didn't rise as high as it did the first time I made it, so I don't know what might have done there. Don't want this extra flour in there for sure. Get that out of the way. There we go. Doesn't hurt to have some, but I'd just rather not have it inside my cinnamon rolls. There we go. See, it rolls up real easy. Stretch that one out so this will be as long. There we go. And stretch this side out so that they'll both have the same length of layers on each side. Okay, now then. All right, now. This is one of those times when a big scraper is fantastic because I want this flour off and out of the way. There we go. All right, now I'm going to make these really thick to start with. I'll have to sneeze. I had my hands behind me. Didn't touch them. I'm cutting these about 1.5 inches to 2 inches thick to make nice big. My battery ran out of my camera at some point, and so I'm filming now, and then I'll come back afterwards and when I've seen what's missing and let y'all know. What I did is I cut each of these into once I rolled it up, I cut it into slices about 1.5 inches to 2 inches thick. I put buttered the pan, and I laid these on their sides next to each other pretty close, and put them aside, covered them and set them aside to rise. They've been rising about an hour now. I'm fixing to put them in the oven at 350, and I'm going to bake them for 30 to 40 minutes depending on what it takes. And then when they come out, I'll ice them. One of the secrets to getting yeast breads to rise is to give them a pan that they can climb up the sides. So the deeper the pan, the better for yeast breads. So, all right, I'm going to put these in to bake, and then we'll make our. Okay, while my cinnamon rolls are baking, I'm going to make icing, and I like a cream cheese frosting. You can make a simple glaze with just butter and cream or a little milk and powdered sugar, but I like cream cheese. I'm going to use since I've got a big pan of these, I'm going to use a whole package of softened cream cheese. And I better get my apron back on, or I'm going to have it all over me. Okay, there we go. And 1 stick of butter, softened. Both of these are room temperature. They're completely softened. You can also do this with your mixer. Blend it together with the mixer. I'm just going to mix my butter and the cream cheese together, and I'm going to blend them until they're both smooth. There we go. Oops. Okay. Now then. Gonna add just a little dab of salt just to cut through the sugar a little bit, what they call a pinch. Add a half a teaspoon of vanilla. And a little cinnamon, since they're cinnamon rolls. And about 2 tablespoons of whipping cream. Powdered sugar or confectioner's sugar, it's all the same thing. Let's start with 1 cup of it. And I'm just going to start mixing it together. Sugar is almost, you count sugar as a liquid in any recipe that you do because it kind of liquefies. And you find, even though it seems like you're adding a dry thing to this butter and cream cheese, as you start mixing it by hand, you find it gets easier the more of the sugar that you add, because it's, like I say, it's like a liquid, and it softens it all up better. There we go. I hope that not much of that other video, the earlier part of this, I hope that not much of it got lost. I didn't realize that the machine had stopped recording. I need to pay more attention, I guess, when I stop it and start it up again, to how the battery life is. I personally think the batteries in these things ought to last longer than they do without needing to be recharged. Paul says, he says, I think the technology is always wrong and I'm always right. And he's right about that. I've always said if we did come back for another life, I want to come back as a computer programmer, because I want to make them do the things that I want them to do. All right, now then, this is. I'm going to keep working on this a little bit to smooth it, but you can see it's getting really nice now. It's getting a good texture to it for icing. So I'll be back when we're ready to put. Okay, my timer just went off. Let's pull our. Let's pull these out of the oven. There we go. They look real brown, but that's the cinnamon on them. It's round. That looks gorgeous. Now I'm going to let them cool in the pan for a while. I'm not going to ice them until they've cooled just a little bit. You can feel the tops of them. Feel how they sound hollow? Oops, let me stop this so you can hear it. There you go. Forgot I had my dishwasher running. Okay. Do you hear that? That hollow sound means that they're done. Usually you do it on the bottom, but we're not going to take this whole thing off. When I sold them at the farmer's market, I didn't use cream cheese icing, because you can't use anything that has to be refrigerated, and the health department says cream cheese icing does. These will certainly stay fresher longer if they're refrigerated, and since it's for us at home, we don't mind keeping them in the fridge. There we go. But our Cottage Food Act doesn't allow for refrigerated things to be sold. Except eggs. Eggs have to be stored in the fridge, but they can be sold by people that raise hens. Now then, see this? This just goes on there nice and smooth. Whoops. And it'll kind of melt down as a kind of a glaze. But you can wait until they're cool if you want to. And you can ice them after they're cool. That's what I used to do. I would wait until they were cool, remove them from the pan, put them on their individual plates of four rolls, the way I would sell them, and then I would ice them, and that way the icing was real attractive for sale. There we go. All right, now then, let's see if we can't get one out so you can see it and I can taste it. Ha ha ha. Let's see here, let me get my bread knife. Here's a small one. Let's take a small one out here in the middle. There we go. There we go. We'll leave the rest of them in there and let them finish cooling in the pan. But as you can see, this lets you get a chance to see the texture. They're very pretty. They have a great texture and they rose up nice and big. You can like I said, adjust your temperature. This was a 30-minute cook. You might try a 25-minute cook and see how it works. Every oven's a little bit different, but the texture's beautiful and the flavor's delicious. All right, thanks y'all. Have a great day.